Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fruit Punch with Jack and Cole. I'm Jack.
I'm cool.
Yeah, it's been a while. We took a week break. Cole's a pussy. Pretty much had exams, couldn't do an episode. 45 minutes, an hour. I don't know what the big deal is. I see on an Instagram story he's out partying. He can't do a 45-minute episode. Clearly, it
Not
should.
out partying.
Oh, yeah, sorry, COVID.
Legal.
Right.
Out with four people in a park.
Yeah. Whatever. You were
Um,
doing stuff. You weren't studying, so it hurt because it
that was
shows.
the night that classes ended. That had nothing to do with the
Oh, okay.
podcast or not. From then
Mhm.
on, I had to study.
Okay.
It's an
Um,
thing when you have exams and you actually study all day. You do well. You should try it.
I should. Doesn't seem interesting. Um, as for the fights, we had an amazing. No, I'm just kidding. The fights this weekend. Let's be honest. The main event was pretty shit. I mean, I left because I had a bar mitzvah to go to, a virtual one. Don't worry. And the minute I came back, I saw they were on the ground, and I just rewinded, and it looked like the same fight had happened for 5 rounds constantly. Nothing had changed. Terrible fight. Awful, awful fight. Vettori did what he had to do to win. He really did. But to demand a title shot is outrageous. I'm sorry. It's just how can you deny that if Whitaker wins, he doesn't get a title shot? I mean, he's first in line.
Yeah, he's Vittori is very naive. He doesn't really understand the way
What you're looking for is
work.
stupid.
Sure, but he thinks everyone's against him, and it really doesn't help him out. The thing is with the fight against Holland is that Holland didn't have a training camp. He should have dominated even more than he did in that fight. What's interesting though is that Holland did pose, I guess, more of I don't want to say threat on the ground, but he was actually moving and trying to get up using his hips as opposed to just lying there and locking you in a fucking body lock like he did with Brunson. But yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting fight. Definitely didn't satisfy, but the rest of the card did, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's why when I was saying that, I was like, you know what? I'm not giving credit because Alan Yusuff, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. What a phenomenal fight that was. Dominic Cruz kept going on about how good this fight is. He kept texting me. No, I'm just kidding. Online, I saw he was very excited about this fight, and it delivered. I mean, Yusuff was the slight favorite. I have to say, if we had an episode, I would have said I was kind of surprised by that. I was a little shocked that Allen was being overlooked. I mean, they both hadn't fought in about a year, and Allen's last performance wasn't the most dominant over a sort of washed up Nick Lentz. But boy, he looked amazing. And for us, Sahabi's doing something right. Best coach in MMA because like that kid has a chance of becoming a champion in a stacked division with Max, Zabit, Ortega, Volkanovski. I mean, I'm really looking forward to see what this kid can do next. I say
I
calm
agree.
10 years
He's
in.
he's he's really good. I made a lot of money off him, so I'm really glad that he won. It's unfortunate he didn't get that finish that he was hunting in the first round, but it was really
I'm
cool.
happy about it though. I like Yusuff. I'm happy he didn't get finished.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, looking out for his health. But
Yeah.
yeah, another fighter of note on this weekend's card was Mackenzie Dern.
Yes.
She was really impressive. She was already, a monster because of her jiu-jitsu, but now that she has the ability to, walk forward and not be afraid of strikes and throw, pretty good strikes of her own, she's very dangerous because she can close the distance and then, like grab you and clinch or go for a takedown. And if she gets you on the ground from there, it's pretty much over. There's arguably no one. She's probably top 5 in pure jiu-jitsu skill in all of the UFC.
Yeah, male or female.
Yeah,
It's incredible. And this was one of those fights where it was a pick 'em and it really was close to a pick 'em in the odds. But for me, it was a pick 'em because I like them both so much. I've seen Nina Nunes fight live in Toronto. She has great wins. She beat Claudia Gadelia. Like, this was her first fight in a long time. She won that last round against Suarez. Like, she's still in there. But that shows you how good Dern is because you made a great point. Dern, when you have someone who's such a specialist, you think, okay, it's going to work against the bottom 15, maybe the bottom 10. But when you get to that top 5, it doesn't work. That's what you see with Damian Maya. Yeah, he'll be able to beat, Neil Magny and Matt Brown. But when he goes up against Tyron Woodley, when he goes up against Kamaru Usman, Kobe Covington, it's not going to work. Mackenzie Dern now has the striking. And she's not always been afraid. She's always been able to walk forward, but now she walks forward with defense. She's ready to fire back. Like in the Ashley Yoder fight, in the Amanda Bobby Cooper fight, she wasn't. She's always been tough. That's not something you can learn. She was born with that. But now she has the skills to defend herself and to fire back. And honestly, her striking is like, it doesn't need to be Valentina Shevchenko level, but as long as it's decent, she can become a champion.
Well, she just needs volume to threaten on the feet so that she can also, get you to the ground. Because if she's showing that she's willing to fight on the feet, whoever she's against is going to be like, oh shit, like when's she going to go for that takedown? When's she going to try to close the distance? And maybe she never does, and she just keeps unloading on you with volume and wins by striking. Like that could happen down the line if she goes up against someone who has, really good wrestling like Tatiana Suarez. Like we'll never know. I'm excited to see that fight. I'm sure it'll happen in the future. But aside from that, it was really interesting to see the new Venum shorts. Huh? What do you think?
Yeah, they look good. I like them. I'd still like to see fighters be able to use their own sponsorships. I think they have that right, but they're definitely an improvement from the Reebok ones, which I thought were nice too. But yeah, I'm satisfied.
I'm sort of disappointed with the pay. I thought it was going to be so much
Yeah.
more of an improvement from Reebok, but it's just like a tiny bit more. And
It's
what's annoying is there's less customization. Like fighters don't get to choose as much of a variety of types of shorts.
Is
I
Bryce
think
still gonna get those camo shorts, or is that not an option with Venom?
I'm not sure. All I know is you can't get white shorts anymore. So gray shorts, I believe it is. So Wonderboy Thompson's gonna have to do white. Which is
Sure.
unfortunate. Yeah, I was
I,
listening
I
to
was playing the
the
video game
podcast.
UFC 4, and they already updated the shorts. They have the Venom shorts, and there was either gray or white. I guess I couldn't tell, but you're right. There wasn't many options. I mean, I saw like four colors, and that was it. Well, I guess there was okay. So there's black, white, or gray, whichever one it is. Uh, Green, red, and blue. That's it. But like in the Reebok, there were like different shades of those colors. Like you saw different levels to. It wasn't so simple. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah,
patterns on the shorts were more, I don't want to say fashionable, but more complex. I mean, these are pretty plain, but I like them. I think Venom's cool. I think it's like Venom says a lot more than Reebok, for a fight company, a mixed martial arts organization. So I think it's fitting. I'd like to see the fighters get paid more like you, but let's talk about your you love this guy, Julian Marquez. Gets a huge win over Sam Alvey. Looked great on the feet. Second round, rocks him and then gets the rear naked choke. No hooks, no problem. Alvey goes out cold like a champ. Probably his last fight in the UFC, unfortunately for now. He talked about getting cut, which it's sad to see because he's such a nice guy. But Julian Marquez, that guy's quite the character.
he is, and he's got a great coach, James Krause. Great groundwork, and now obviously you see he's getting really good on the feet. Not that he wasn't before. I think he has a knockout over Phil Hawes, but he's really putting it all together. The one thing that really irritates me about him, and it's not like a knock on him. It's just that his post fight speeches, whatever you want to call them, call outs, are so cringy. Like,
It's so
yeah,
weird.
and then they work. So like, good for him. Like he got Miley Cyrus to respond. I
And
guess I
he
kind of
talked about
butchered that. Yeah, but he got
yeah.
three of the biggest football players in the NFL to agree to play some sort of Kansas City themed sport thing.
Yeah, and it's like Patrick Mahomes is one of the biggest stars on the sport when it comes to any athlete. I mean, top
Yeah,
five, I'd say
any
right
sport.
now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Uh, well, yeah. So good for him. Mike Perry, he goes. I guess I don't have it anymore. I used to be great.
Yeah,
Uh,
that
what,
was
what,
sad.
yeah. Rodriguez looked really good. Great jab. Happy for him. I'd like to see Mike Perry get a win. It was hard to see him lose.
I think he's got a new fire in his like chest, which is good because I think he's gonna, he's been training harder and smarter. But I really think he's got like the skills needed. Like he's got that strength and that dexterity. Like he'll come forward after anything. And he also has good wrestling, but I think he needs to get a good training camp, like a good team. I mean, he's not with a bad one right now, but they're clearly not good enough because he has more potential.
Doesn't have,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it was also really funny to hear Daniel Rodriguez they were mentioning how he came up with a kick at the BMF ranch with
Mushroom
Joe
kick,
Schilling, on mushrooms, which is really funny.
yeah,
Wonder what kick it was. Would have loved to see it, but I guess we'll have to wait.
yeah.
But yeah, we should also, if you don't have anything else to say about the UFC fights, we should go to the Bellator fights.
Well, we should first talk about. I mean, there's a big title picture right now at 185. Pretty much all rematches, with the exception of Darren Till, who's coming off a loss. You have Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, Robert Whitaker. Yeah, he beat all of them. Is he already beat all of them? So it's a very tough situation. Who do you think gets the next title shot?
Well, I mean, I would have loved it to be Darren Till if he got an impressive win over Vettori, because that's the only one that really makes sense. He has the
Not
name.
really.
Yeah, he has the name. He's got the style, and he's the only one he hasn't fucking fought. I mean,
Yes,
it does matter. Now you have to decide between people he's already beat, and I feel like out of those people, the one that, I mean, probably stands the best chance is Marvin Vettori, but no one wants to see that after his performance against Holland. So
he
we're
did
gonna
what he
wait to
needed to
see.
do. You can't
Yeah,
get mad at Marvin. He did what he needed to do.
I'm not mad at him. It's just the way the sport works. It's unfortunate, but if and I think he poses the biggest threat to Izzy.
Oh yeah. You know what? No, I disagree. I think Robert Whitaker does, and I'll tell you why. Robert Whitaker coming into that Izzy fight, he went through so much. He had those 2 wars with Romero, and I mean like wars. Like that second fight was crazy. Plus Romero missed weight. Not to mention he had a big layoff, which could help him, but also could have been a negative attribute to this fight. Also, he had that hernia, which could have been fatal if he had fought Gastelum. He had a lot of adversity to face, and I'm not taking anything away from Izzy. I love Adesanya, and I think Adesanya probably wins if that rematch happens. But Whitaker was winning that first round until he got knocked down, fair and square, but he got knocked down at the end, and Izzy stole it. My point is, if Whitaker's a little, oh shoot, can you hear me?
Yeah, nothing happened.
Well, I guess this mic's useless then.
What do you mean? It was working fine.
It unplugged.
Well, you're still speaking through it.
No, I'm not. It's
There
off.
you are. No, you're speaking through it.
Okay, well, pretty much all I was saying was Whitaker, if he beats Gastelum, you can't deny him a title shot. 3 big wins, Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and now potentially Kelvin Gastelum. But what if Kelvin wins? Kelvin had the fight of the year with Izzy. What if Kelvin wins? That'll be 2 in a row.
It depends on how Kelvin wins. If Kelvin
Yeah,
knocks out Whitaker, which I don't see happening, then yeah, maybe. Your mic's fine. I promise you're speaking through it.
I think now.
Speak.
Hello?
Yeah, it's been the same the whole time. Regardless, yeah, I think if Kelvin knocks out Whitaker, then he might get a title shot, just because recency bias. Whitaker's a game opponent. If Kelvin Gastelum can finally put a stamp on things and get a nice finish like that, then that could really get him the title shot. And I know Izzy has so much respect for him, so Izzy would be down. But yeah, we got to see what happens this weekend. I'm really excited, but we should talk about the Bellator fights.
Yeah. I just listen, you can't just say you're not interested in the Whitaker rematch though. Like if Whitaker wins, you got to give it to him. End of story. You got to give it to him. He was the former champ.
We'll talk more about it when we cover the UFC upcoming fights.
Yes.
So
Well,
this weekend, Bader versus Machida, number 2, I
great
believe.
fight. Fire fight. I loved every minute of it. It was back and forth. Very little grappling, all on the feet. No,
Yeah,
it
totally.
wasn't. It wasn't very fun.
And exactly as I predicted, I guess you should say, based on my bank account.
Well, we didn't hear it because you were studying for exams. So maybe next time, take 45 minutes out of your day.
I don't know, because last time I came on the podcast and gave my picks, I didn't do so well. So maybe the trick is to not
Don't
do the
give your
podcast.
picks.
Yeah,
Yeah. And how does that help the brand?
it does.
It doesn't. It helps you.
Just take that into account. Those of you, the 3 of you that are watching this, I
Hey,
sacrifice
you got
money.
like 36 views. Don't be modest.
Okay, sorry. I sacrifice my money so that all 36 of you have a chance to win money.
But if you lose, they lose. So you're really just losing everyone money.
Yeah.
Okay, Bader versus Machida 2. Ryan Bader won by unanimous decision. Cole, I'll give it up to you. You seem very excited for some unknown reason about this fight because there was very little excitement about it.
I was just really excited to see the fight because Machida did have some improvements. Since his last fight, Bader was coming off of the loss against that Russian monster that trains with Bader.
Nemkov.
Yeah. And I was just excited to see the fight, but yes, I knew that the biggest possibility was Bader taking him down and humping him for 5 rounds, as he did. Not mad at it at all. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're a wrestler and you're facing one of the greatest strikers ever. Of course, you're gonna take him down if you can. But another fight on the card that was really interesting to watch is the UFC alumni Jeremy Kennedy versus Hard Knocks 365's Adam Borics, who.
Yeah.
If you follow Henry Hooft on Instagram, that's one of the guys he talks like most highly about.
Very high on him, yeah.
Yeah, his calf kicks, his striking, it's all so clean. The one concern was Jeremy Kennedy's wrestling, but Adam Borics, I think, stopped nearly every takedown. Maybe Jeremy got one against him. I can't remember. But yeah, I love Adam Borics. He actually knocked out Aaron Pico, I think a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's like the fifth one to do it.
No, I think the only person to knock out Aaron Pico.
Nope.
Yeah.
No. He's been knocked out at least twice and submitted. I know he has 3 losses. I know he has at least 3 losses.
Aaron Pico?
Yeah, look it up. He's got 3 losses.
I'm not gonna correct you because I don't know if you're wrong, but I am gonna look it up. He does have 3 losses. He was submitted in his first fight, and he was knocked out twice. But the way he's looking now, though, is incredible, Aaron Pico, and his last loss was against Adam Borics, which people did think was a fluke because it was a flying knee. But Adam Borics, I think he has like 3 flying knee knockouts in Bellator, which is crazy.
People see something crazy and they call fluke. It can't be planned, right?
Yeah, and also he's not bad on the ground either. He's got like a bunch of triangle chokes. Adam Borics. So I'm excited to see what's in store for him. But aside from that, there's not really any other Bellator fights of note. No offense to the Bellator fighters, but
Neiman Gracie, right? Lost.
Yes.
What's his name?
Jason Jackson. Yeah. I think though that Neiman Gracie was controlling the fight on the ground for a good amount of time. I think he should have been given the win.
Very nice guy, Neiman Gracie. I met him in New York. He's such a good representation for the Gracie family because it seems like they're to the modern world. I mean, we have Crone in the UFC, but I feel like people don't really know as much about the Gracies as they should. I don't think people understand how big of a pioneer Royce and that entire family really was. It's crazy. They invented jiu-jitsu essentially. I mean, they adopted it from Japanese jiu-jitsu, but without them, this sport is not what it is today. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's not a sport really.
So I'm always going to be rooting for the Gracies. Is my point.
Yeah, you see, your GSP. He said recently on Joe Rogan's podcast that in his opinion, it's so tough to choose who the GOAT is because there are so many different things to take into consideration. Like, are you talking about the GOAT right now overall? Are you talking about the GOAT during his time? And Joe and GSP will always say Royce Gracie because at the time, no one was doing what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so because of what has become as a result of, what Royce brought to the sport, it is a fair argument that he is the GOAT. He's definitely at least on the Mount Rushmore of MMA.
Mount Rushmore, I hate when people say John Jones or even Amanda Nunes, and that doesn't
make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
Here are the 4. You ready?
Obama's not on Mount Rushmore. I know he's not the best president of all the presidents, but for recent people, like for recent greats, they can't be on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's got to be, and it's nothing about personal opinion. You got to put Royce Gracie on there. That's an obvious one for me. Randy Couture as well. George St. Pierre, the GOAT, and he was been fighting since the early 2000s. He's able to be there. And Ronda Rousey, she is the the Mount Rushmore of female MMA.
Female, yeah.
Yeah, Amanda's better. I cheer for Amanda. She's the better fighter, clearly, 48 seconds to back her up. But we're not talking about who would win. Because back to your point, Royce Gracie in his time was unstoppable. How do you think Royce Gracie does against the 25th ranked welterweight in the world right now? Not even right now, when Royce was in his prime. Right now, silly. He's 52 or whatever.
No, I know what you meant. I meant. And I get what you say. I agree. I do think that, yeah, you're right. Ronda Rousey is on the Mount Rushmore of MMA because you have to take into account the 50%, the other 50% of mixed martial arts, which is females. And honestly, without Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes wouldn't have the platform she has right now. Like, look at all female sports. The only thing bigger is female tennis, maybe female golf, not even.
No.
So
tennis, sure.
Yeah,
for
it's also
sure.
very global.
That's an argument I make to people who call the sport, barbaric or, medieval, out of its, way too fucked up. I say, listen, you look at how people are treated. Look at your champions: heavyweight champion from Cameroon, light heavyweight from Poland, middleweight and welterweight Nigeria, lightweight. Well, Khabib was from Russia. It's so diverse. It's an international sport. Women make up a third of the divisions. The GOAT, a lot of people say, is a woman. She is number 1 ranked on the video game. So, like, if anything, it's the most modern of sports. They're paid just as much. I mean, at least Amanda Nunes is, because people want to see her fight. So that's an argument I make to people, especially when girls say to me, like, they talk about how, fucked up it is. It's just like,
girls,
well, just so you know, it's a huge ambassador. My mom and my grandma, when they talk about MMA, and even your mom, Cole, I always.
Whoa! Now you're bringing my mom to this.
Yeah, my aunt.
She's your aunt too, so careful.
Anyways, what were we talking about?
I don't know, but what we should be talking about is ONE FC.
Who cares?
I'll tell you who cares. Iuri Lapicus.
Yeah.
Remember
when I called you a pussy at the beginning of this podcast?
Yes.
Yeah, I take it back. He's a pussy.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's the new Aljamain Sterling.
Hey,
we'll get to that in a bit.
Say that.
We'll get to that in a bit. So obviously you guys hopefully saw the fights. Eddie Alvarez was facing Iuri Lapicus in the co-main event. First ONE FC fight aired in America on TNT. And Eddie Alvarez was just dominating the fight. He had him on the ground against the fence, grounding, pounding. And the guy, Iuri, turned his head so that Eddie Alvarez's punches were going to the back of the head or ear area. But even still, every single one of his punches was touching the ear. But the ref called the fight and ended it via disqualification. So Eddie Alvarez didn't get the win. And Iuri Lapicus, who wasn't even knocked out, left on a stretcher, which, doesn't add up. DJ Demetrius Johnson, the GOAT, in the main event, got knocked out by a knee to the face, which is really sad for the sport.
He was a grounded opponent, but it's legal in ONE, which I don't think it should be, but we'll get to that.
Doesn't matter. DJ thinks it should be. And, I mean, it literally, that hit him right in the face, literally. Yeah. And guess who didn't leave on the stretcher? The man who got knocked out cold with a knee to the face.
Well, where was Stipe's stretcher when he got knocked out by Ngannou?
Yeah, honestly. Come on, Iuri.
Where was Askren? Did Askren go out on the stretcher? No.
No.
He got knocked out by Askren. Yeah, that guy's...
Askren stayed the night.
That guy, I mean, best actor for sure. I'm excited for the Oscars. There weren't many good movies, so he has a chance.
Honestly.
Yeah, I feel bad for Eddie, but Eddie's had this... Man, Eddie's had... Like, this one wasn't his fault, but remember the first Dustin fight? He, was it a grounded knee? He did something. It was a no contest. And then in the rematch, Eddie was on top of him, landing downward elbows, 12-6, and he got stood up and then eventually knocked out. I mean, when you're this big of a veteran,
it wasn't Eddie's fault.
This one wasn't Eddie's fault, but my point is he has had some 3 cases where this is, that I know of. So, probably should read the rule book again. Not his fault, but just why it was very unfortunate. He should have got a warning. The guy was fine. They were little punches. They didn't do shit. It's easier to sit here and say they didn't do anything, but they didn't do anything.
I mean, I'm sure they did something, but they didn't do enough to
get taken out on a stretcher.
Yeah, but also, did you see Eddie Alvarez's speech afterwards? Because it just made, I mean, everyone already loves Eddie Alvarez, but I love him even more after seeing what
Yeah.
happened, despite losing that fight because of Yuri's, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, pussiness. Um, he was upset about Yuri. He was upset about Yuri leaving on a stretcher. He says he's been in that position and he hates it. He hates to see someone else in that position, and it made him nearly cry in the back
Yeah.
in the back after he was fully crying. And it just I hate to see it because Eddie deserved that win. He trained hard. He looked in great shape, and it's just really unfortunate.
They don't want to see people get hurt necessarily. I mean, some definitely do. Um, I think when Mike Perry fights, he wants to hurt his opponent,
Yeah,
but maybe he doesn't. My point is, it's a sport at the end of the day, and obviously the consequences are very very dire when it comes to MMA. It's you're getting hit in the face. Like
yeah,
it's bound to happen. But they just want to win and they want to win the right way. Believe me, the biggest loser of that night was not Eddie Alvarez, believe it or not. He lost that fight, but he did not lose because
yeah.
people
Biggest loser.
not everyone loves Eddie Alvarez, by the way. There are a lot of haters out there. It doesn't make sense. People hated Daniel Cormier for years. He's the nicest guy. Um, but now they don't hate him. And if you do, then you're just a bad person. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
his post fight speech maybe made his stock go up, but regardless, clearly the biggest loser of the night was Adriano Moraes. Um, just kidding.
I was
he
so
he
confused.
had an incredible performance. Like that. I
Yeah.
mean, he was like 6 feet taller, but regardless, he had he was really holding DJ on the ground for a while, and DJ managed to get up a bit, and then he got kneed in the face and knocked out. But you know fucking cheers to Adriano because he could be coming to the UFC in the near future and he could really, mess some shit up because he just beat the GOAT.
Mhm. I'm. They're gonna do the rematch, I believe. I'd like to see. I think DJ can win the fight. You like you said, the other guy is quite a bit taller. You don't think DJ can win?
There was just no like there was no hope in that fight for him. Like watching it from the start to the finish,
Yeah.
like there was no beacon of light to be like, oh, there we go. Like no, it was just I was
Yeah.
scared the whole time. I
Do
was
you think
sad
he
that he
overlooked him?
I don't know. Like
It's hard not to when you're Demetrius
yeah,
Johnson.
exactly. Because you're considered the GOAT, even if you don't consider yourself that. That would have an impact on the way you judge your opponents, right? And especially fighting in ONE FC as opposed to the UFC for so long, like there's that little psychology there that maybe makes you think that your opponents are easier. And
Mhm.
even if you try your hardest to step away from that and you know take them for who they really are, it's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough.
I uh, I agree with you. It's you know, at the end of the day, Demetrius Johnson, he what he did is so underrated. He literally okay, when people say unbeatable, a lot of people talk about when Tito Ortiz was in his prime. You couldn't imagine him losing. People can't imagine Khabib losing now. I cannot think of a better example than Demetrius Johnson. When this guy was in his prime, it just his competition seemed, you know, not the highest level, and he just looked so ahead of the game. What he did to Ray Borg, and I like DJ. He's the nicest guy. You can see that how he handled the fight afterwards with his opponent. I mean, he's literally so respectful and so nice. Um, and that's a reason he wasn't that big of a draw, to be honest. Because if that guy had Connor's personality, he would be the biggest thing ever. Doesn't matter that he's 5'3".
Yeah.
What he did to people was ridiculous. But anyways, my point is, even though I liked him so much, I would always cheer against him because I wanted someone to beat him. And when Henry Cejudo finally did beat him in that rematch, which was a split decision, may I add, I was happy. What a mistake that was. I had no idea what we were about to get into. Henry Cejudo being a champion was the worst possible thing for fans cringe wise. I mean, we still have to listen to it. He said, "You guys don't need to hear my ass no more." In his post fight interview after Dominic Cruz, that's what he said when he retired. He said, "You don't have to listen to me anymore." Yeah, we fucking do. It's been a year and we still hear you nonstop. Floyd Mayweather, this, that, etc., etc. It's like, shut up. Either come back and fight or just fuck off like you said you would.
I agree.
You don't
Also,
get both.
it's funny to see it. Like, I don't think UJ can be considered the GOAT anymore or in that conversation because he's lost. I think he has 3 losses now, And when you do
Who?
see him go, Demetrius Johnson,
Oh, he's
and
got
when you
4.
4 losses, and when you do see him go up against fighters like of such high caliber and who are really good at wrestling, for example, Henry Cejudo, Adriano Moraes, and Dominic Cruz, he loses. And
Well, he
so,
was. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
so you can't exactly consider him the GOAT because he lost to his toughest competitions.
Well, I never actually consider him the GOAT just because, like you said, he had those unavenged losses, except for the Cejudo one. He did knock out Cejudo in the first round. Boy, if I knew what Cejudo would become, we would appreciate that a lot more. Um, but yeah, for me, he was 4 before this fight. He moves to 5. My rankings: 5 Demetrius, 4 Khabib, 3 John Jones, 2 Anderson Silva, 1 George St. Pierre. That's that's my list. So he was never the GOAT because he didn't have that high level competition. Now we see the flyweight division really starting to pick it up with Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno and Cody Garbrandt saying he'll move down. I mean, Askarov. The division is starting to get really heated again. So yeah, at the end of the day, his biggest wins are Joseph Benavidez and Henry Cejudo. Good wins, but do those compare to John Jones, who beat Shogun, Vitor, Cormier, Machida, Rampage, Rashad Evans? I mean, come on, you can't compare the two. You just
Yeah,
can't.
you're right. Also, um, what's unfortunate about last weekend's fight, the disqualifications in one FC, they both tie in a lot to what's been going around in MMA in general recently, which is just refs. Like they're too involved with the fight. They have too much of an impact on what happens. And I understand they're there to keep people safe, but they really need to, step out of the spotlight. Like the same thing happened with Aljamain, of course, and now he's champion, and he's decided to take his moment right now, out of all times, to get a neck surgery that'll maybe have him out for 9 months, which is ridiculous because he doesn't even deserve. I'm a huge fan of Aljamain. It's like he is
Yeah.
maybe top 1 or 2 fighters for me. Maybe was top 1 or 2 fighters for me. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate to see how this is all unraveling because he knows no one wants him to be champ right now, at least the way he won it, and he's stepping aside, and I'm scared because I feel like they might strip him or do an interim fight. I wouldn't be too mad with an interim fight, but they'll probably do that against Jan and someone else, and I just don't like how Aljo's handling this whole situation. He posted that weird video with him in a hood and holding the belt and doing those things. It was weird, and he's losing fans, and I'm upset.
Yeah, you're one of them. I love Aljo too, not as much as you do, but he's one of my favorite fighters for sure, and it's glad to see him in the history books as a champion because he truly is a champion. I believe his fight versus Sanhagen should have been for the belt. Doesn't make sense that Jan versus Aldo was for the belt, just didn't. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, you got to be consistent with how you choose to act. Like it's just silly. One day
Yeah,
you're saying I don't want the belt. You're throwing it on the canvas. The next day you're saying, my family came in. I'm gonna take pictures. I am technically the champion. The next day you're having a face off with Henry Cejudo. The next day you're embracing it. Like I am the champion, doing those W. Maybe if you had selected one of them from the start and went along with it consistently, but the way he's so, it's just it varies. Like his whole act varies. It's like we can see right through it because we know
yeah,
it's fake because there's been too many, you know, situations. There's been too
yeah.
many.
It's cringy, and
It is.
it's unfortunate because DC always advises these fighters, who I'm sure a lot of which look up to him, and so they take his advice. And DC always says that you should play the heel. You should you know make the most of that opportunity so that you're talked about often. But because he believes it's better to be brought up in a negative light than to just not be brought up at all. And I kind of disagree. I guess it depends on what kind of person you are, but if I'm in the UFC, I would rather be not talked about until I prove myself worth by showing results, as opposed to just be hated on and playing the heel, because what are you going to get from it? Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. um
Yeah.
but yeah, we should also talk about all the upcoming fights. There are so many to talk about. Um, First, we have Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie, booked for the UFC event on May 8th.
That
What do you
card
think?
stacked, by the way. Stacked card.
Who else is on it?
Sanhagen Dillashaw,
Oh wow.
Diego Sanchez versus Cowboy,
Yeah, I
Neil
know the card
Magny
now.
versus Jeff Neal, which we'll get to, Angela Hill versus Amanda Rebus. I mean, that is a stacked fight night. Come on.
Well,
Was that Vegas
there's
26?
two of the other fights booked right there.
Yeah, well, we're not going to go in depth with all of them. There's way too many. When they come about, if they come about with COVID, it's a 50-50 chance for every single one.
You're right.
We will cover them in depth. But yeah, let's talk about
But those just one thing to say about them. They're all actually pretty fair matchups that we don't know what's gonna happen. Like same with Cyril Gane versus Volkov. Like Magny Neal, as you just mentioned, Rebus, Hill, as you just mentioned. Like they're all pick'ems almost, which is why I love the
I
fights
don't
that the
think
UFC
Rebus
puts
Hill
in.
is a pick 'em.
Who do you have? I have Hill, but I think
I
Rebus is a
want
good
Hill, but I
chance.
think Rebus is going to destroy
There
her.
you go. I mean, that's 50-50 right there.
Not 50-50. I just said one's
Yeah,
going to
you
destroy
chose
you.
one.
I
chose
chose
another.
one. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry. I see what you're saying. But you're biased. I like Hill. I'm telling you. Hey, let's do a bet right now on the camera, okay? I will give you $20 if Angela Hill wins that fight. Since she's, I think, a minus 200 favorite, you only need to give me 10 if Rebus wins. What do you say?
Sure.
Virtual handshake?
Yeah. Touch your mic.
It's on camera now. The world knows. So if you don't pay me, I will make it public in our next podcast. Well, it's not till May 8th, but you know what I mean. Because Amanda Rebus will win that fight, and I'm either gonna look really fucking stupid or like a genius after this. Anyways,
Another female fight booked was Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick. In my opinion, and I believe yours too, not a smart fight to make because those are maybe two of your most promising up and coming fighters, and you're essentially ruining the I guess progress of one of their careers. There's a word I was looking for. What is it?
what you're what word are you thinking? Potential?
No. Trajectory. You're ruining one of their trajectories.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, I completely agree with you. We talked about this. It's an odd situation, right? Because Macy Barber has lost 2 fights in a row, and she's not on that trajectory. Whoa, you know what I mean? She's not on that path, but she's still a star. In the same time, it's worse, right? Because she has lost 2 fights in a row and one more, and then she's really not on that path. She is done. Maverick has looked great. It doesn't matter because neither of these girls are giving Shevchenko anything. It's so irrelevant because Shevchenko will just run through all of them. She will.
Know.
The only one that has a slight chance is Andrade, and she still won't win. But we'll get to that next week.
I think Miranda Maverick does have a good chance. I think she's really strong and really smart.
Yeah, I don't care.
She can
be Arnold Schwarzenegger with Albert Einstein's mind, and he still wouldn't be able to beat Shevchenko. She's just too good. I don't even like Shevchenko that much. She annoys me. I don't know why.
But she is beatable though, and the one thing that separates the person who beat her from the rest is strength, size, but still strength. And yeah, Miranda Maverick grew up on a farm. She's got that, cow milk and strength.
I just want to say I take back what I said about Valentina. I don't find you annoying. You're not listening to this, so I don't know why I'm talking to you as if you are. But I really don't not like you. I just want to see you get knocked out because that would be cool. It has nothing to do with personality, even though your accent does bother me a little bit. Yeah.
Accent? That's rude. What if your accent bothers her?
I mean, once again, she probably isn't listening. I hope she doesn't. I really hope she doesn't. I do not want, Valentina Shevchenko showing up at my door. That would be pretty brutal. You can bring Antoinette. What's her name?
Antonina Shevchenko.
Antonina. I'd be okay with that.
Tonya. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's but
not bad.
Valentina. What?
What?
What'd you say?
Well, I didn't say anything.
No, you mumbled something.
Yeah, I'd go on a date with Shevchenko.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and Tina Shevchenko, she's a good looking girl.
Which one?
Neither. Don't worry about
Okay.
it.
Anyways, let's talk about Cole and I's favorite fighter, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Finally gets a fight he deserves. Gilbert Burns, UFC 264, July 10th, possibly the co-main event to Poirier McGregor 3, which we will get to in a little bit. Holy shit. I'm going to be at camp for this. I'm going to be at camp for the main event, which is Poirier McGregor.
Wow.
How the hell I'm going to need to like get kicked out for a week so I can go watch the fight.
Yeah,
I don't know. We're in the middle of
this one tickles my nipples. I'm a little scared, to be honest.
I'm very scared. I mean, if Wonder Boy was gonna go fight CM Punk, I'd still be scared. I'm always scared when Wonder Boy fights.
I would not be scared if he was fighting CM Punk.
Okay. I'm scared because Gilbert Burns is a true mixed martial artist, and he's dangerous everywhere. In fact, I'm more worried about Gilbert on the feet than I am on the ground, if that makes any sense. Because I don't think it's gonna get to the ground, knock on wood. But at the end of the day, I think on the feet, Gilbert's got that power. He knocked down Usman. He knocked down Woodley. I mean,
Well, that's the fight right there. It's if it gets to the ground, because if it doesn't, Thompson will outclass him, and he will use his striking to keep his distance, and Gilbert Burns won't be able to do anything. He won't know what to do.
Yeah,
and I think
I
that's
think
the way it's gonna go.
Does Gilbert catch him or not? I think that's all it is, to be honest. And if he does catch him, does he get him to the ground and finish him off there with a submission or ground and pound? I think if it goes to decision, Wonder Boy wins. I'd love to see a knockout. I'd love to see a Wonder Boy knockout.
By catch him, do you mean like because Wonder Boy's so good on the feet and he's really quick, or like punch him in the face?
I mean, punch him in the face, Cole. I mean, if he catches him with a hook or an uppercut, I will be scared because
see, I think it's the other way around. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Wonder Boy's good enough to,
I don't think it's gonna happen either. I'm just saying that's what I'm worried about.
No, but I'm more worried about the other type of catching. I'm more worried about that he catches him and then grabs him and brings him to the ground and submits him. I'm not worried about him getting caught.
Of course, I see. That's what I mean. I'm not as worried about that because I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well,
because
I hope we're both right.
Me too. I'd love to see that, and they better give him that fucking title shot. Leon Edwards can go beat unranked Nate Diaz. I don't care what he does to him. I don't care. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is next if he beats Gilbert Burns. Okay, end of story. Leon's like, what would I fight Stephen Thompson for? He's ranked 5. Why would I fight him? Now you're fighting unranked Nate Diaz. What? Explain to me the logic. Who's coming off a loss? Wonderboy's coming off 2 wins. Explain it to me. I'll explain it to you. He knows he'll lose.
Yeah, you're right. Also, 2 more fights, or more than 2 more fights. But Tai Tuivasa versus Greg Hardy, heavyweight.
Yeah, Greg Hardy will get everything he deserves in that fight.
That's pretty much what I was about to say. I love Tai Tuivasa so much. He's so cute. And he's probably gonna knock. I don't know. The thing is, it would be smart for him to take him down or clinch, because clearly you saw that Greg Hardy against who was it? Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, he got TKO'd.
Yeah, he did not know what to do on the ground. He was just lying on his back like a baby. Yeah, so I think that'll be interesting. And then Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige.
Yep.
And maybe unpopular opinion here, but I think I'm going with the underdog, and I think the underdog's Korean Zombie.
What?
I'm excited.
What are you talking about? The odds are out. Korean Zombie's like a minus 164 favorite.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm sure that's going to change, but that's not beautiful. If you want Korean Zombie to win, wouldn't you want him to be the underdog?
I mean, yeah, preferably.
He should be the favorite.
I'm just glad that other people see it the same way I do, because then it makes me more confident.
Like when Stephen Thompson, I see he's a favorite right now over Gilbert Burns. I should be as a bettor. Well, I'm not going to bet on. I don't bet on my favorite fighters, really. I should be like, oh shit, I can't make money off this guy. But I'm kind of like, confident. Like, oh, they agree with me. These guys, he's going to win too. So I get what you're saying. I think Korean Zombie wins that fight, but who knows? Danny Gay looked phenomenal against Gavin Tucker. Surreal Gone versus Alexander Volkov.
We already brought that up, but I honestly don't think that he would have done as well as he did against Gavin Tucker
If
if
he
he
didn't
didn't.
catch him.
Yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that actually would have been a similar fight to what it's going to be versus Korean Zombie. So I'm excited to see that, question answered.
Really
Then
shows you
we,
how good Edson Barboza is, right? Because he like should have beaten Ige.
yeah,
He knocked him down twice, I believe. Like, and he's fighting Shane Burgos. But yeah, my
that'll
point.
be
I didn't want to say that.
that'll be a crazy fight too.
Yes,
Um, then
crazy hard.
last two fights. I lied. Last three fights. Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie,
You
both
said
for
it. You said
UFC
it.
on
You
May
said
8th.
it. You said it.
Wow, cool. Then the two biggest fights that have been announced is light heavyweight title, Jan Blachowicz versus
Yes.
Glover Teixeira. I really want Glover to win that fight, but I also don't because I want Izzy to have a chance against Jan again. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to want, but I'm excited.
I mean, Izzy's not getting that shot against Jan for a while. If he does get it, he'd have to defend his title at least 2-3 times, and Jan would need to remain champion, which I don't believe he will. I think Glover Teixeira is going to be the next champion at light heavyweight, and then you can have Izzy go up because it's a new face, and I think Izzy beats him. But
I don't know though,
Blachowicz is so good.
but Glover's probably gonna go for something on the ground, like go for a takedown and try to win there. But Jan is so good on the ground, and he's clearly insanely good at striking as well because he exchanged with Izzy and arguably won. So
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Cole. Do you think it headlines the pay per view Blachowicz Teixeira? It's scheduled for September 4th, UFC 266. Do you think that's a headliner? It's a light
um
heavyweight title, second heaviest.
honestly, if I feel like there's a chance that a middleweight title fight is booked on that same card, and if that happens, I think the middleweight title fight will take the crown in terms of headlining the
How
pay per
can you
view.
justify that though? How can you, especially since it would be Izzy, right? Because
Yeah,
how can you justify that when the heavier weight class is light heavyweight and Yuan just beat Izzy? I mean, listen, I
because
agree with you.
Izzy's it's all about star power and sales, and Izzy sells more than both of those guys combined, so that's why. And
But he's
and
coming
if
off a
it's a
loss.
yeah, but it might also be a rematch, and he's not coming off of a loss in the middleweight division, but it might be a rematch, and it most likely will be a rematch because who the fuck else is there? So rematches always sell more. So there you go.
Do
That's
they?
even more reason. Yeah, it's just more interesting. It's there's more history to the fight. There's more build up, and honestly, everyone's gonna want to see Izzy fight, no matter who it is, more than two 40-year-old men,
Yeah.
despite the fact that they're both incredible fighters.
No, yeah, you're right. Izzy probably would headline, and it seems like that's the card he'll be put on. Let's talk about Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. So, for those of you who are
Yes.
unaware, and if you're listening to this show and you're unaware, then that's fucked up. Um, Dustin Poirier pretty much defeated Conor McGregor in a rematch in January, and Conor pledged to donate $500,000 to Dustin's charity, The Good Fight, which is essentially, I think, it just helps children in Louisiana. Dustin's a really good
Lafayette,
guy.
Louisiana.
Yes. Dustin's a really good guy, and he just wants to give back to the community. And Connor seems like he wanted to do the right thing. He definitely has $500,000 in his back pocket, as he
Yeah.
would say. I wipe my ass with that money, so I
and
don't.
and the
Yeah,
way things unfolded is Dustin Poirier's charity was in contact via email with Conor McGregor's, I guess, financial managers or whatever you want to call them. And they stopped responding to Dustin Poirier's team's emails. So Poirier was scared that they were going to, halt the donation, I suppose, maybe in a form of revenge of some sorts, but that wasn't the case. Conor McGregor he says him and his manager say that they were just in the process of making sure that the money would go where it's supposed to go, which is very normal for donating to a charity, especially at such a high amount of money. So I understand where they're both coming from because yes, they probably should have answered the emails. But I'm glad they figured it out. But before they figured it out, Dustin Poirier accused Connor of not donating, and and Connor came out very offended
yeah,
by
he was genuinely offended.
yeah, which makes sense because that's a big call out. Like he made a promise, and the promise was for the I guess betterment of society, right, for those kids. And Dustin Poirier was claiming that Connor was just going to take that money away from them, which is essentially what they would have been doing after making that promise, right? And Connor was so mad he called him an inbred hillbilly. and Dustin Poirier responded with, and then Connor said he wouldn't do the fight, that he wanted to fight someone else. And then Dustin responded with a picture of him knocking out Connors, being like, okay. But before we announce the result of that situation, is there anything you'd like to say about it?
I mean, I see both guys' side. Dustin shouldn't have done that, if you ask me. If what Connor's saying is true, and I believe it is, because Dustin apologized. I don't think Dustin would apologize unless he thought one was needed. The fight's already booked, which you were about to get to. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yes, it's official. July 10th, UFC 264. Save your money, save your time, because we all know everyone's going to be watching this.
Yep.
And also, we have to get to a little bit of some boxing news. So Oscar De La Hoya, he's supposedly coming back. No one wants to see it, but everyone does want to see him get knocked out, let's be honest. And he's obviously taking the easy route, if you'd like to call it, against an MMA fighter. And we've heard 3 different potential fights, one being Chuck Liddell, which I do not think is going to happen, nor do I want to happen. He needs to take a nap and just stay sleeping.
He's taken quite a few naps recently in his fights. I mean, the way he goes out, Chuck, it's like no one else. He's like just out. Like there's no TKOs with us with Chuck. It's like you get him, he's going unconscious.
Yeah, he's the Iceman. He freezes. He's frozen. And then Tyron Woodley. See, I would like to see that because it'd give him a nice payday, and he's obviously on his way out. But he's made a good amount of money, and he's doing other things too. Eddie Alvarez also doesn't really need money. He's been very good with his money. But if I'm being completely honest, out of all of these fighters, the one that I want to see the most would be Eddie Alvarez, because I think he deserves it the most. And I'd want to see him. I'd want to see him in that spotlight more than I would want to see Tyron in that spotlight. I don't know why. That's just the case. I love them both. Don't get me wrong, but I have this new attachment for Eddie after that post-fight speech.
Yeah, you like Eddie. Oscar, I just don't want to see him get any spotlight. I don't like the guy too much. I think he should, if you're so tough and you want to come back, fight a boxer. Don't fight a 51-year-old Chuck Liddell who fought in your shitty promotion where he got knocked out in how long? 3 minutes? Which is embarrassing. Tito was like proud of that. Like, what are you proud of? Are you serious? Anyways, that's a story for another time. Let's talk about the fights coming up.
Wait, before we get to that, more boxing news. Tyson Fury says after he beats up Joshua, he wants to fight Francis Ngannou because he believes it'll be easy work. Not to say that I disagree. I do think Tyson Fury would have an easy job fighting Francis Ngannou, especially in boxing, obviously, only in boxing. But I mean, Francis Ngannou, the thing about him is the same thing with Deontay Wilder. They both started training very late, but they've both made an insane amount of progress that's only going to continue to, I guess, grow. And yeah, they have that one-shot power. So despite if you're going to win the fight, which Tyson Fury probably will, Francis Ngannou always poses a threat with that one punch because he can land it at any moment, and if he does, the fight's over. So I would love to watch that. Probably far away from it happening, but that's exciting. And then lastly, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, for this boxing fight, I mean, what were we talking about?
Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury.
Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury. At the end of the day, Francis Ngannou can fight anyone at anything. It doesn't matter what martial arts, and he'll always have a chance just because of the power. Like, Fury should win and probably would at least 9 out of 10 times, but I'd be excited for that. And I'm really not in for these cross sport events. I think they're stupid. I think it's, if a boxer is so tough, go fight in a sport. I mean, boxing's kind of silly, right? Like, we're the toughest guys in the world. We're gonna fight. We're gonna duke it out, and we're only gonna use our hands. Like, that's what Joe Rogan said, and I think it's really true. I mean, I'm surprised the sport is still around, to be honest.
I agree, but the thing is with boxing is there's so much, there's so much more evolved than the striking in MMA. Like the footwork, the head movement, the speed. like it's so much different in boxing. So I'd really like that to transition over to MMA, and I think this cross promoting between boxing and MMA will actually result in that. So I'm not too upset by it, and it makes sense just because unfortunately boxing fights make so much more money, maybe because it's not owned by a monopoly organization like the UFC, and you can decide to fight with Showtime or with Triller or whatever. So there's like more competition, so more reason for those boxing promotions to pay the fighters more.
Yes.
But while boxing pays their fighters more, MMA still gets a lot more eyes and a lot more clicks on social media and whatnot. So it makes sense that the MMA fighters want money and the boxing fighters want views. So that's why they're cross promoting. I can't hate on that. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way things are. So, I mean, do what you got to do. But yeah, aside from that, one last thing before we get into the upcoming fights, Dylan Dennis, who no one likes really. I don't want to talk. We got to bring it up at least. He was on the podcast Flagrant with Andrew Schultz recently, the comedian, friend of Joe Rogan. And he was so drunk on the podcast, I think because they're all in Miami. And he was talking about Gordon Ryan's girlfriend, who's this like 19-year-old, pretty jacked. Not, I mean, she's good. We'll say she's good looking. She while Gordon Ryan was in the middle of a jiu-jitsu match, she went backstage and apparently kissed Dylan Dennis, and Dennis had to push her off. Dennis was like, he said himself, he was like Alex Jones on that podcast, and I agree because he sounded like he was lying about everything. But who fucking knows if that is true? I hope they get to fight like soon. And then the other recent news in relation to Gordon Ryan is, Greg Jones?
Yeah, the grappler.
Yeah. He's a really good grappler. Like, he's fighting Gabby Garcia soon, the female 6'7" monster in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Guess what else is happening with him? It's not being talked about at all, but I saw it today that he's joining the cast of The Ultimate Fighter.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, he's got, wait, what division is this?
I think it's middleweight and bantamweight, so I think he'd be middleweight.
Middleweight, yeah. He definitely wouldn't be bantamweight.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, there's your jiu-jitsu news for the podcast. Let's talk about the fights this weekend.
Yeah, let's keep it a little short. There's Bellator, there's UFC, and there's Triller. But we'll start with the least important. Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. We've talked about it on here plenty of times before. No other fight on that card really matters because we're not the biggest boxing fans. We're here for Ben, and I hope Ben is there for us. But unfortunately, you'll hear him say himself, Jack, that he got outstruck by Damian Maia, and he says that he has progressed a little bit since then. You can even see in his sparring footage that his punches are cleaner. He actually has an uppercut now, which he didn't know to throw before. But then you hear about what Jake Paul's doing in sparring against MMA fighters like that guy in Bellator.
Can't hear you, Cole.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I forget his name, but there's this Bellator fighter that sparred with Jake Paul recently, and Jake Paul fucked him up. So
that's what Jake Paul says.
Yeah, and I believe him. I do. I really do believe him, and that's why I'm really scared for this fight. I think he's sharper. He is better timing, more power, bigger, so more reach than Ben Askren. But all we can hope for is that Ben Askren's Olympic medal mentality will, be able to outgrind and out cardio Jake so that they get into the late rounds where, Ben can put pressure on him and clinch, land some dirty boxing in the pocket, and maybe come out with the decision. I don't think anyone's getting knocked out. I hope no one's getting knocked out, because if someone does, it's probably going to be Ben.
I disagree.
Ben, who has Ben ever knocked out striking?
Who's ever knocked out Ben? Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah, I don't think that Ben will get knocked out. I'm just saying if someone does get knocked out, it'll be Ben. Ben has never been forced to strike in his life.
Jake Paul's never fought a real fighter.
But he has. He's been fighting professional boxers in every single one of his training camps for the last 3 fights.
Yeah. Training camps, completely different thing.
Sure, but like
We'll
if
see.
you're
I'm
no one
telling you.
likes Jake Paul. Everyone's trying to prove him wrong. Every boxer, every MMA fighter is trying to go in when they get a chance to spar him to knock him out because they all want to prove him wrong because they all hate what he's doing to the sport. And with that being said, Jake Paul is still walking and is still talking, which shows you that he is at least putting up a fight with all of them. So I'm scared,
Yes.
and you'll hear Brendan Schaub and Joe Rogan and Uriah Faber say themselves that they've seen sparring footage of them both, and that they are almost certain that Jake Paul is going to win. But then you hear Chael Sonnen and Stephen Thompson, and they all think that Ben Askren can use his strength in the clinch to tire Jake Paul out and get the win by decision. But then again, that comes down to the ref. How long are they going to let them clinch? How fast are they going to separate them? To be honest, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's why I'm tuning in. And to be honest, that might be the fight I'm most excited for this weekend, which is sad to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
Just because it's
just because we want to see Jake lose. He's a prick.
Yeah, and I've started to love Ben Askren. He was
I've
on.
liked Ben for a while.
He was on Jake Paul's brother's podcast, Impulsive,
yeah.
And it was so interesting to watch because even Logan and Mike, the host of the podcast, were finding it so difficult to dislike Ben because he's just a cool, normal guy.
Yeah, so, he really is. And let me tell you, I like Logan a lot better than Jake. I still don't like Logan. I think the Paul brothers are a sin when it comes to fighting. It really pisses me off. I don't.
I'm in a similar boat as you. I don't hate either. Like I kind of hate Jake Paul, but like I bet you how they are in real life, I would be able to hang out with them, but I wouldn't want to be best friends with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I definitely hang out with both of them. They're very wealthy. But yeah, Jake Paul's just a little shit. I'd love to see him get knocked out. It might not happen, but I'm gonna say here, just Ben Askren, 7th or 8th round knockout. I think Jake is gonna get tired, but who knows? I am a little scared for Ben. Jake is a boxer. I mean, a better boxer. It seems like I just think Ben's tougher. He's got the experience. And at the end of the day, he's got the cardio too. I mean, Jake, let's see if he can actually fight in those later rounds.
And he is smaller. Like Ben Askren's smaller. There's no doubt there. Jake Paul always apparently surprises people with how big he is. But the other thing is, yes, he's never been knocked out, but he's also never been forced to stay on his feet. He's always had a way out in his mind. And the other thing is, Jake Paul, Ben Askren, he's never been knocked out except for that knee against Jorge Masvidal, which would have knocked out everyone, including probably Francis Ngannou. But my point is, maybe that weakened his chin. You know, every time you get knocked out, you get a weaker chin. He's been he's never been knocked out in training camp or in fights aside from that one with Jorge Masvidal. But maybe he's lasted so long because he's never been knocked out. And now that he has, maybe his chin's gotten weaker. And I'm scared. That's why I'm watching it again. I'll say it again because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're very clear on that. I think Ben Askren's going to win, but well, next time we do this, we'll know.
Bet the fight to go the distance, plus 162 on Bet365. I think that's the smartest bet. Feel free to do what else you think.
I think Ben is going to win by TKO, but that's just maybe it's just my imagination getting the better.
Then do over 5.5 rounds. Still plus.
Yeah, do that for sure. I agree. Let's talk about Bellator real quick. The tournament, unfortunately, we haven't seen Rumble versus Romero, which is kind of the only fight everyone gives a shit about.
I'm actually excited for Nemkov.
Well, let me tell you something. Matchmaking is so shit in this tournament, okay? First of all, who's this guy Corey Anderson's fighting? I'm not saying he's not good, but who is he?
I don't know, but I think it's smart.
I
think it's smart that they want to ensure someone from the UFC stays in the tournament, so they give him a weaker name.
But that's not insurance. It's not insurance.
But don't count that guy out.
Oh, I just said that. Yeah, it's not. Listen, let me tell you something. Rumble Romero is the best fight to make. I agree with that. Now, could they have gone Mousasi instead of this unknown guy? Maybe not. But if they had, that would have been a lot better. I think what you should have done is Corey Anderson versus Ryan Bader. I think that's and only have one boring fighter make it to the semifinal.
Honestly, I don't think they should have put any UFC alumni against one another.
Really?
Yeah. You shouldn't it's gonna get more views. That's how you bring the UFC audience over. You keep them in the tournament, right?
Well, it's a risk. But yeah. I think Nemkov is going to beat Davis. I think Rumble's going to beat Romero, and I think Anderson's going to beat you know who.
Is there any fight of note this weekend for Bellator? Oh, there's I believe Sabah Hamasi, the guy who had the fights with Abdul
The
Al-Hassan.
fights.
Yeah, the two knockouts. The one that
He
was
got brutally knocked out. Yeah,
he's fighting Paul Daly. So I mean,
I hope Paul Daly wins that.
me
And
too.
I don't like Paul Daly.
Neither do I really, but I like his style. Like I love his striking.
And a
So
ton Levy out of his fight. We forgot to say. Unfortunate. Love that guy.
yeah, he was also an underdog. He was a really good
Yeah,
underdog.
what the hell was that about?
I don't know, against Austin Hubbard.
It's like 20-11. Okay, whatever.
You know who's replacing Austin Hubbard?
Yeah, it's that other.
Replacing Natan Levy.
Yeah.
I forget his first name, but his last name's Bush and his nickname's Harry. I love it. I want him to win, and I want
you want the winner of the fight in the ton. But let's
Dakota Push. Dakota Harry Bush.
Jesus Christ, that's a fucked up name.
I love it.
Let's talk about the UFC fights real quickly. I'm so tired. Let's talk about the first fight. Pena versus.
You slept till like 3.
Yeah, but I went to bed at really late. It's just... Pena versus Munoz, whatever his name is. I'm going with Pena. I like that guy. He's got a cool afro. He's Mike Perry's best friend.
Luis Pena?
Yeah, remember the interview?
No.
Where they're like, "Is Luis Pena your best friend?" And then Mike Perry's like, "That's a stupid fucking question."
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, your hair's pretty, words you can't say.
Friendly.
Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious.
Your hair's
forgot about that.
Friendly. Yeah, people are pissed off during weight cut.
That was great. That was really fun.
Yeah. Anyways,
there's a couple fights that I think are really interesting on there. Aside from the main event, of course, is like you just mentioned, Luis Pena versus Alex Munoz, Alexander Romanov versus Juan Espino, both incredibly talented on the ground.
Yeah, but that's a shitty matchmaking fight by the UFC.
I agree, but I hope it goes to the ground. I hope we get to see that exchange. Unfortunately, it probably won't get there. Romanov will probably knock out Espino because the striking is on another level there. I mean, hopefully I'm proved wrong, or a more exciting fight is always more welcome. But aside from that, Abdul Hazak Al-Hassan versus Robert Whittaker's training partner, Jacob Malkiel.
I like to see Al-Hassan get back in the win column.
Me too. I would too. Then there's also Andrei Arlovsky versus Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman left the UFC for a while.
Going with Sherman.
Yeah, I think that's actually smart. I think it's either going to be Andre by decision or Sherman by TKO.
Although he hasn't been TKO'd in a while, Arlovsky.
I know, but that's what. Yeah, he's going too long. He's too old, and Sherman's coming off 3 TKOs.
He's due a knockout loss.
Yeah, and I think if anyone's going to do it, Sherman can do it. Then you have co-main event, I believe, Drakkar Klose versus Jeremy.
Yes, I'm going with Jeremy. I think this is the right move.
First fight in this weight class.
No, it's not. It's his return to the weight class.
When did he fight it?
He fought RDA at 155. He fought a few people, I believe. Cowboy. Then he went down to 145. Missed weight a whole bunch of times. And I really didn't like it how he missed weight against Calvin Kattar and didn't apologize. He was just mean to Calvin. He got what he deserved in that fight. But yeah, this is the right move for him. I think it's a healthy weight class for him, and I think he gets the job done.
I'm not even a big fan of his, to be honest.
Me either. I'd like to see. I like these names, these veterans getting some wins. I know I just said I want Arlovsky to lose, but he's a dick. I've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get to the main event because this is the only one that people are stoked for, and I don't blame them. You go first.
Middleweight title contender fight. Hopefully, we'll find out.
Eliminator fight.
Yeah, both. Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. Both coming off of wins. I mean, I'm really excited to see this fight because they both maybe look the best that they've ever looked in their last fights.
Yeah, that's a good point. Gastelum, what really pissed me off about Gastelum, he's a nice guy, but he was mad at Whittaker. He's like, you robbed me of a chance to fight you for the title. Well, let's see if you can actually beat him, A. And B, he had a hernia. Like, do you think Robert Whitaker is scared of you? Do you? I mean, do you really think that? Come on, man. It's
Did you
just
see?
silly.
Did you see from the Ultimate Fighter season that they were both on, where they were running around the track? Yeah, when they were running around the track doing like this challenge, and I think Whitaker ran 5K like twice as fast as he did, or something like that. Obviously the fight's not a race, but it is
Whitaker's the
five
better.
rounds.
Whitaker's Whitaker's got the cardio. Whitaker's really got the advantage in pretty much everywhere, if you ask me. I think even the wrestling, believe it or not.
The one thing he doesn't have the advantage in is the jaw, the chin, and they both.
I don't know.
Right.
He's been knocked out once, and now you're telling me, like, once to middleweight, and you're telling me he doesn't have a chin. The guy went the distance with Romero twice, Cannonier, Darren Till. I think
Yeah, but
Gastelum.
I don't know.
You're right. No. You're right. Gastelum has a better chin, but it's not because Whitaker has such a bad chin. It's just because Gastelum's chin is unreal.
Yes, and it's gonna be a really cool fight. I'm excited because they're not gonna be afraid. They're gonna fight. They're gonna throw down.
I want Whitaker. Sorry, I just go ahead.
No, go. I oh my god, I also want Whitaker, but you continue.
I want Whitaker, and I think Whitaker, but you know when you get this gut feeling, I got a gut feeling Blackwood was gonna beat Izzy. I did think it would be a knock. The feeling was it would be a knockout, so I wasn't 100% right. I still wanted Izzy and picked Izzy, but my point is I have a gut feeling Gaslam's going to knock him out. I don't know why. I really hope I'm wrong.
Me too.
I really do. You have that gut feeling?
I hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't. I do. I'm gonna place one or two bets on him. I already have, like, on Gaslam. But I think the smart bet, which we should get into right now, actually, would be Robert Whitaker by decision. You have him at plus 110 for the decision. I think that's good odds.
I'm surprised the odds makers made it that. Like, that's what it should be, but I'm disappointed. I wish it was, like,
the scary thing about this card is that I really think the only guaranteed win is Tony Gravely versus Anthony Birchak. I think everyone else is a toss-up. I think if Natan Levy, who is fighting Austin Hubbard,
that would be a good one.
Natan Levy was an underdog, and I think I would have him as like.
But let's go with Harry Bush.
I might. He's actually not bad. He's pretty good, and Austin Hubbard for some reason is extremely overrated. I don't know why, at least in the odds. But yeah, no. Just to be safe, I think the bets to place this weekend would be Robert Whitaker by decision, Jeremy Stevens.
What the fuck?
What's happening?
It's like a terrible noise.
Well, as I was saying, Whitaker by decision, Jeremy Stevens just flat out at minus 125. Then the next pick, I think you either have to take Andrei Arlovski by decision or Chase Sherman by knockout, as I mentioned earlier.
Chase Sherman by brutal knockout. I'm hoping for it. I'm betting on it.
I don't think that's a betting option, but like I agree. But yeah, the thing is, if you're gonna do two parlays, I would say the one thing to switch to the Chase Sherman, Andrei Arlovski. Then you have Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Jacob Malkoun. Jacob Malkoun is plus 240 underdog. He was knocked out by Phil Hawes in his last fight, and that's his only loss, but he only has 3 other fights, all wins. He's a training partner of Robert Whitaker, but I also think I have a slight feeling that he's a punching bag of Robert Whitaker's. So I'm taking Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Then you have Luis Pena, Mike Perry's friendly friend, against Alex Munoz, who's really good on the ground, but I still think Luis Pena uses his length to win that fight. Then Alexander Romanov versus Juan Espino. I keep going back and forth between these two because I feel like either of them
Romanov,
the other on the ground. But yes, I'm going with Romanov. I would just say him flat out minus 150. Don't take him by a method of victory.
Anything can happen.
And that's the only fight that I'm going to bet on for UFC. But Bellator, if you want to combine that in your parlay, I would take Julia Budd against Diana Silva, minus 1,200, but still worth adding to your parlay because I think it's a guaranteed win.
You're going to say Corey Anderson.
I am going to say Corey Anderson. I'm also going to say Paul Daly, and I'm going to say both Nemkov brothers, Victor and Vadim. And
big parlay.
It is a big parlay.
You can split it up if you want.
Yeah, those are just those are my picks. I've split them up myself, so feel free to do what you'd like with them. I also have I also have in the Askren Paul fight, which I don't recommend betting on because it's so uncertain. But I do have at the moment it going to decision. I also have a bet with Askren finishing Jake Paul, and I also have a bet with Paul winning by decision because I don't think Askren's going to get knocked out. But I do think if Jake Paul wins, it will be by decision, to be honest. It depends on the ref again, but it's plus 700 for Jake Paul to win by decision. So that's a good bet. You can do it separately, put in $10, put 70, or don't bet on it at all so you can enjoy it. Who knows? Those are my picks.
Yeah, I like them. I agree with most of them. Okay, everyone, please subscribe to MMA Island TV. They put out a lot of great content. A lot of it's better than this show. We leave a like too, and if you want, leave a comment. We'll reply because there's not many.
Let me know what you think about this because I the exams. This is the fight.
Player exams are over.
No, I know I had exams, so I didn't shave. But from this angle, it kind of looks okay. But then it looks like carpet from the side. I'm not going to show you guys. Tell me how it looks from the front. Also, tomorrow, Falcon the Winter Soldier, episode 5.
Looking forward to it.
I'm really excited. It's gotten me through the week, aside from the fights, of course. Apparently, not really spoilers because I haven't seen it and I haven't looked for spoilers, but there's going to be a character, a cameo, that's a good actor that plays a popular but grounded character in the comics, has never been in the MCU, that the writer apparently wants to see in a movie or scene with Thor someday. So there's very little speculation because there's so many different criteria that they've given, but I feel like the only person it could be is She-Hulk because I think this show could tie into She-Hulk.
Right.
And She-Hulk's character before She-Hulk is just a lawyer who's pretty grounded. And if you look at what happened at the end of the last episode, I won't say it, but I'm just going to nod to it.
He might need a lawyer.
Yes. Yes, I think there's going to be a trial because that'd be interesting. 50% of people are probably going to support what he did, 50% or not. And I think that's why there's going to be a trial. So it'd be an interesting episode.
Yeah, excited for it. Falcon the Winter Soldier, Bellator, shitty boxing fight, UFC. It's a great fucking weekend.
And one more thing.
Okay.
If you guys like Falcon the Winter Soldier, another TV you should try out. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Invincible. It is animated. I'm not a big fan of animated TV shows.
Thank you.
It's really good. Watch it. It might be better than Falcon Winter Soldier. That's huge acting. The cast is J.K. Simmons, Steven Yeun, Sandra Oh.
Steven Yeun.
Yeah, and more.
Oh, I gotta watch. And Sandra Oh.
Yeah. Are you being sarcastic? Because they're both award-winning actors. Oh, you need to educate yourself. Watch Minari.
Okay. Watch that show if you want to. But yeah, really fun weekend coming up. Excited. Let's wrap it up. Can't you just
wait, what?
I don't know. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
So tired.